with the Battle of Plassey, Buxar, and dual administration in Bengal. Now we have to start from the Anglo-Mysore Wars. We have already know about the dual administration. It was administration in which all the powers in the hand of Britishers, but responsibility was in the hand of the rulers, Nawabs. Okay, so Anglo-Mysore Wars, in which Mysore emerged as a powerful state under the able leadership of Hyder Ali and the most famous, his son Tipu Sultan. In the second half of the 18th century, Tipu Sultan was known as the Tiger of Mysore. These powerful rulers, we all know that they opposed the British, and particularly Tipu was close to the French. Okay, so he did not want to British to trade in his territory, so he did all the possible work against the Britishers. He controlled a major part of the spice trade. The British disliked the French presence in Mysore, so as a result, 4 wars took place between Mysore and the Britishers. Last fourth Anglo-Mysore War was 1799, and it was ended in the heroic defeat and death of Tipu Sultan while protecting his capital on 4th May 1799. So this chapter in the history of Tipu Sultan's life was a golden period, glorious chapter of the struggle between the Mysore and the English. Here in the chapter, in the video, I have given you the flow chart of this Anglo-Mysore Wars. Okay, now we have to go to the Anglo-Maratha Wars. The Marathas were another formidable power in western and the central India during the second half of the 18th century. But their defeat in the third battle of Panipat was 1761. Please write down all the dates. These are important with the events like Battle of Buxar, Battle of Plassey, Anglo-Maratha Wars, and the Anglo-Mysore Wars. All the dates are very important. Please learn it. First you write it and then you learn it. Let us start now. The struggle for power among themselves gave the British an opportunity to intervene in their internal matters. Means Britishers started taking part in the internal matters also, as they were taking all the expense and all from the rulers, but slowly they started interfering in the administration also. Many wars took place between British and the Marathas, mainly on account of the subsidiary alliance. The Peshwa was the head of the Maratha Confederacy. The Third Anglo-Maratha War, it was held during 1817 to 19. It was the last war between them. The British defeated the Peshwa, dethroned him, and annexed all his territories, means captured. The Peshwa was pensioned off and sent to Bittor near Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh. Like Marathas, there were Sikh also, in which Maharaja Ranjit Singh was very famous, and he became an effective political and he was owner of effective political and military force. The British power in India viewed the rise of Sikhs as a potential threat, so they want to suppress them. The British thus wanted to bring the Sikh under the control. After the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, because Maharaja Ranjit Singh was having an effective military force, so after his death in 1839, lawlessness prevailed in Punjab. The British took advantage of this, and thus the First Anglo-Sikh War broke out in 1845. And in the Second Anglo-Sikh War in 1849, the British finally and comprehensively defeated them in the Battle of Gujarat. A town of river Chenab. The Sikh chief surrendered. The Punjab was annexed by Lord Dalhousie. So other conquest which was done after the alliance and annexation, the defeat of Maratha in the third battle of Panipat in 1761, it had already provided the stage for the success of Britishers in India. Soon many more native states came under the British control. Now let us know about the subsidiary alliance. It was the way of expanding the area by the Britishers, in which Britishers, the Indian rulers, they were under the British protection. They also had a surrender control on the foreign affairs and let go of their right to make alliance with other foreign states for any purpose. It can be economic or political. So in return, they were given protection by the British from their rivals. So many conditions were there for the rulers who signed the subsidiary treaty. So four points are given. So main thing is that that is given in the points is that Britishers subsidiary alliance system held all advantage for the Britishers, not for the Indian rulers, as they could maintain a large loyal army at the Indian rulers' expense and also indirectly control the defense and foreign affairs of the supposedly protected ally. So the disadvantages were there for Indian rulers of this system, because all the power of taking decision was taken away from him and he became completely dependent on the British. So many subsidiary treaties was done with the Nizam of Hyderabad in 1798, the Nawab of Awadh in 1801, Peshwa Bazirao II in 1802, and many Rajputanas also. Now the next topic is policy of annexation. The policy of annexation is not affected only the Indian rulers but also those who were dependent on them, like soldiers, craft people, and nobles. The higher classes, scholar classes, they lost their patronage from these rulers. Chieftain, nobles, and the jamidars were thus improvised. Thus, by the mid-19th century, no single Indian power was there who was not in control of British, means who was free from British control. All were under the Britishers. Assam, Arakan, northeastern region, or a portion of Nepal and Burma were already annexed. Now, doctrine of lapse here given. We all know that Lord Dalhousie devised a policy that is called doctrine of lapse. This policy led to a number of independent kingdoms. These being annexed to the British Empire. These were the states that were enjoying British protection, but their rulers had died without leaving a natural heir to the throne. Their adopted son could now no longer inherit the property or the pension which was granted to them by the Britishers, unless the British had earlier approved the adoption. In this way, Dalhousie annexed the state of Satara Sambalpur and Udaipur, Nagpur and the Jhansi. We all know about the Jhansi. Now our last topic is structure of administration. The British created a new administrative setup in India in the form of the civil services, the army, the police and the judiciary. The objective of creating a new administrative setup in India was to increase its profit from trade, to increase the profitability of the territories it held in India, to consolidate its hold over India. The British divided their Indian territories into provinces, three of which were Bengal, Bombay and Madras. These were looked after by governors, while the Governor General held the overall charges. The districts were overseen by the collector, who supervised revenue collection and overall administration of the district. Now, routine administration was carried out by the four agencies. These agencies were the civil services for general administration, the army to protect the territories under British control, the police to maintain law and order and ensure peace, and the judiciary to dispense justice. So, in short, all the agencies I have described, but we have topic here civil services. So this was started by Lord Cornwallis, and because of this only the civil service code, he was known as father of modern civil services. He regularized the space and specified the office of the district collector and established the office of the district judge. The territory was divided into districts with the collector, and it helped the company achieve a well organized administrative system. Lord Cornwallis also laid down a rule with regard to civil servants. According to this rule, civil servants could not be engaged in private trade while they were employees of the civil services. Taking part in this civil service examination was very difficult for Indians. There were two causes. First, because these examinations were held in London, and very few Indians could afford to go to London. And the second, the medium of examination was English, which was an alien language for the Indians. Now, the second topic for administration was the army and the police force. We all know the army protected the trading interest of the company, and the main responsibility of the army was to protect the Indian territories under British control, to secure new territories, as well as to suppress uprisings in India against the British rule. The company has exclusively British officers and mostly Indian soldiers. They were called Sepoy. In Hindi it is called Sipahi. Majority of the Sepoy were formerly farmers who joined the army for the decent salary, because the life of the farmers was very difficult. So salary they were getting when they entered themselves for Sepoy, as a Sepoy. Now the northern Indian population, present time it is UP, Bihar and Jharkhand, supplied most of these soldiers. Means many soldiers were coming from these areas. The well trained and the disciplined force, the British army, armed this Sepoy with musket and paid them regular salaries. The function of the police force was to maintain law and order in the country. Lord Cornwallis established a permanent police force in India. Each district had a number of thanas under a daroga. Towns and villages had kotwals and chowkidars respectively. The post of district superintendent of police was later created as the head of the district police. Now, the Indian policemen were excluded from the higher post. Under the British, the police were an efficient force and succeeded in curbing major crimes. Means they helped the Britishers to stop the crimes, including thuggy. However, the lower ranked policemen were mostly unsympathetic, oppressive, and corrupt. It was because of the police never became popular with the people and could not win the trust and support of the people. The last is in administration was judiciary. The British introduced a new judicial system in India. It was based on the judiciary of England, but which also included Indian traditions. Some Indian tradition also included in that judiciary. Every district had a civil court, which is Hindi Diwani Adalat, and the criminal court Fauzdari Adalat. The British established the principle of common law for the people of India. In 1833, a law commission was appointed to codify Indian law. It compiled the Indian Penal Code (IPC) and established the principle of rule of law. This meant one law for all. Still, it is in our constitution, one law for all. But this was seldom practiced, and Indians and Europeans were tried to get a separate codes. Having come to India as a trader, the British soon gained political and economical hold over many Indian territories. And by mid-19th century, they were the supreme power in India. Their direct rule extended across a large part of India, and the few kingdoms that remained independent were, in fact, their vassals. India had now become a British colony. So they came for trade and captured all the areas of India, maximum part of India, under their supervision. So chapter is over, and the main motto of teaching this chapter is to make your people aware with the term how they came and how they spread all over in India. We have finished the chapter, and exercises already done. The long type answers are there in a text, so write it down, complete it, and send it to me. Till that time, you all complete your work, remain happy, healthy with your family members.